you will know that in the end, it's that one individual that has passion, that one individual that has fire in the belly, that one individual that's determined that something should be done.
That is what the Future for Nature is all about. It's about empowering a new generation of activists. It's about taking those new ideas, new thinking outside the box, and take those ideas from the fringes of conservation back to the center.
It's us. Nature isn't something abstract that is out there. It is us. It is everything around us. We are the environment.
And we all share this connection to the earth. We're all part of the earth. But only some will go to great lengths in order to protect and conserve the natural world that worries us so much at the moment.
I just wish there were more foundations like the Future for Nature Foundation to recognise the contributions made by young people who work to make this world a better place for animals, for people and for the environment.
The people behind the Future for Nature Foundation welcome you. Join us in this celebration of young nature conservationists.
Well, hello everyone. Hello friends and champions of the wild world. I'm Saba Douglas-Hamilton, Chair of the International Selection Committee, and it is such a delight to be presenting the Future for Nature Awards today, live from Kenya. This is the 13th Future for Nature Award event, and coming at the end of a seriously turbulent year, it is an absolute joy to be able to celebrate the stellar achievements of our three young heroes today, saving species in Bolivia, Venezuela, and Nigeria. So a very big welcome to you all. Well, today is also different because it's the first time it's been a truly global celebration, broadcasting live from locations all around the world. I think this ingenious connectivity has been the silver lining to the dark and stormy clouds of 2020, because suddenly it's okay for us all to link up in this virtual way. I like to imagine it as tendrils of green consciousness connecting us through cyberspace. And of course, by not flying, we're giving our battered atmosphere a much needed break. Well, of course, physical travel at some point will resume, but the legacy of this time will be that we don't need to do things anymore the way we did them before. It's as if finally a choke point in our brains has unblocked, advancing a new dawn of opportunity to do things better. And if there's ever time to hope, it is now. This year, nature has given us a major wake-up call. Here in Kenya, we've seen the heavens darken with locust swarms stretching from horizon to horizon. Severe heat waves and then wildfires have raged across Australia and California with devastating consequences. And now in the Amazon and Pantanal in Brazil, and even the permafrost forests of Siberia. A record number of hurricanes have hit North America, and severe flooding has wreaked havoc across East Africa, something that we have experienced personally here in Kenya, as well as in the Far East. Mirroring the upheaval in the natural world, our communities have spilled out onto the streets in disgust and fury to protest climate and social injustice, with the retaliatory violence shaking us to the core. And then a microbe, 1,000 times smaller than the width of a human hair, jumped species and brought the world to a complete standstill, causing the biggest global economic shock since World War II. Isolated and anxious, we finally had time on our hands to reflect on what is really important to us, to question why this has happened and what it means in the big picture. Zoonotic diseases like COVID-19 tend to spring from disturbed environments, often triggered by our invasion of the last wild places and the killing and eating of wild animals. There's no denying that our relationship with nature is in total distress, and COVID has brought this incontestably into the spotlight. And yet, we've also seen what action humanity is capable of. That change on a massive scale is possible. And that is what gives me hope. So now we must ride this wave of political goodwill and transform it into real action for the environment. Well, luckily for us, we have a growing alliance of eco-warriors leading the charge. Young people with fresh ideas and moral courage like Tjalle Boorsma, Iroro Tanshi, and María Fernanda Puerto-Carrillo, knitting our ecosystems back together, one species at a time. The world needs people like this now more than ever, but it needs us all to link arms and work as allies, guarding our biodiversity fiercely, spreading awareness, getting involved, and putting our money where our mouth is. Future for Nature has been very lucky to have champions of an extraordinary caliber in this regard, like the Van Hoof family from Burgers Zoo, the Svanborn family of Africa's Eden, the Fut family of the Fut Foundation, and the Van Wyerwerf Company. Our heartfelt thanks to each and every one, as well as to the Future for Nature team, the selection committees, the board of recommendation, and the many volunteers who have poured their passion and energy into bringing this event to the virtual stage today. Well, one of the joys, of course, of having an online platform is that I can see where you all are. And we have an audience today that's signed in from all across the globe, making this our most international event yet. So please do take time to take part in the polls so that we can find out what you care about. Ask questions or make comments in the chat. You'll be able to connect with our winners a little bit later on. And if you're watching the live stream, welcome. Please do feel welcome to join us on the Happen platform later to make the most of connecting with these young, wonderful champions today. And now a special word of welcome from our special guests.
Hi, this is Floortje Dessing from Dutch Public Television, travel show host. And once again, I feel so honored to be talking to you.
Hello, all of you. I'm here to congratulate, first of all, the 3 winners of the Future for Nature Awards.
Having this prize is so important because it shows that individuals can make a difference. Their work, their conservation work is so important for the protection of species.
I think all species and the whole diversity on the planet is extremely important, and we need to keep an eye on it. And we need working on keeping it that way.
Also, of course, I want to congratulate all the winners of 2020. You guys and girls, I just want to say, you rock. You show the world that by working hard, by being focused, you can make a difference. You can help to protect species that are worth protecting.
The conservation work is extremely important, especially in this time. It's more important than ever because we live in an interesting time. We live in a time in which our relation with nature is maybe changing. You know, we humans, we think we are the boss of the planet. We can do whatever we want. We can empty the oceans. We can have fires in Australia and California. And it turns out that we are not the boss of the world.
So once again, congratulations everybody. Hopefully we see each other next year live and in person.
And I congratulate them with the beautiful award that they have gotten, and hopefully this enables them to do even more than they were doing already. I wish you all a very good day. I think you're probably not physically together. You're all working digitally at the moment. Like I'm doing, I'm here in the United States.
And from the beautiful sunny city of Stockholm, I want to say bye-bye. And once again, hopefully until next year.
There are few animals as unloved, misunderstood, or as persecuted as bats, nor perhaps as relevant to our COVID-shaped world today. But in Nigeria, a small, obscure, very threatened and sensitive species has found a passionate champion in our first winner, Iroro Tanshi. Scourged by wildfires, feared as witches, with cave sites under constant threat, the last sighting of the short-tailed, round-leaf-nosed bat was 45 years ago, until Iroro found a single roost made up of 12 individuals in the Cross River National Park bordering Cameroon. With roost sites of this range-restricted species in stark decline, Iroro's research has highlighted their endangered status, and thanks to her rapid action, engaging local people in a zero wildfire campaign, their future is now more secure. So this award comes at a perfect time to bolster her efforts. Well, from the few Zoom calls I've had with Iroro, she's clearly a glass ceiling smasher. Born in the small mangrove-fringed coastal town of Wari in Nigeria, she's swum against the current from the start. Her father, a devout Christian with an evangelical zeal for science, allowed his kids to watch nothing but nature documentaries on TV, apart from The Sound of Music. She told me he must have been one of the original inventors of parental TV control. He's also very much a man after my own heart. Well, as frustrating as this might have been at the time for Iroro, it clearly did her a lot of good. Not only has she inherited her father's passion for science, she's become a rigorous, evidence-driven academic, hell-bent on breaking stereotypes. Her efforts to preserve critically endangered bats in Nigeria and stabilize local biodiversity is a breath of fresh air, often in the face of powerful and corrupt opposition. And she's blazing a trail as a new conservation leader in West Africa. She's our first African woman to win this award, and we are beyond thrilled to honor her today.
Hello there, my name is Iroro Tanshi. I am a bat biologist from Nigeria working to protect the short-tailed round-leaf bat. As a young girl growing up in the oil city of Wari, Nigeria, I hardly saw any wildlife, but my parents, my father is a surveyor, my mom a geographer, made sure to give me a robust view of the natural world. My dad would often capture my imagination about the galaxy, space, the moon and stars. In fact, one of my favorite experiences was of my dad sitting on the veranda and pointing out the stars by their names. For an 8-year-old, that was mind-boggling. Who knew stars had names? But my dad was also a disciplinarian, and I say that because at least 90% of my TV time was spent watching nature documentaries. That was sufficient home education for my dad. You see, some of those nature documentaries that I watched as a child didn't really have black scientists or black African scientists for that matter. But for my dad, a scientist was neither black nor white. They were not male nor female. They were just human beings working to make the world a better place for us all. The impact that had on me as a child was that I wanted to be a scientist. The short-tailed round-leaf bat is a small insect-eating bat that also roosts in caves. That means you find it in caves, sleeping in caves. But it also occurs in naturally small populations, and that predisposes the species to extinction. It becomes vulnerable to extinction. But human activities are also driving the species further into extinction beyond natural causes. The species is threatened by forest fires that spread from farms and cave disturbance, where fruit bat hunters go to caves and disturb those caves because they're collecting bat meat of large-bodied fruit bats for food. Now, those are the two challenges: forest fires and fruit bat hunting. Our approach has been to, first of all, bring the major players to the table, fruit bat hunters and farmers, but also community members, community leaders, and park managers. You see, we supported the establishment of an anti-forest fire law that is implemented by community members themselves. What we're also trying to do is to find additional caves and protect those caves by attaching innovative movement tracking technology to bats, and those bats lead us to the caves. As far as fire goes, we're also producing and creating an innovative early warning system to prevent the outbreak of fires. We've started recording some successes. Specifically, we have curbed the spread of fires when they break out and reduce the outbreaks of fires in the first place. You see, the tropics have got the most biodiversity for any region in the world, And some of those biodiversity are the most also at risk globally. But unfortunately, the tropics also have the fewest number of scientists and conservationists working to protect species in those areas. So my focus on Nigeria and West Africa is part of my ultimate plan for providing a future for nature. Conservation can sometimes thread on the verge of despair, But for the short-tailed round-leaf bat, I have hope, and I'm optimistic that our efforts will pay off, because the forest fires we're trying to combat also destroy local livelihoods. And so what that means is if you stop forest fires, you also protect local livelihoods. That's a win-win situation for everybody. And that is what really makes me optimistic about this situation. My advice to young nature conservationists around the world is simple. Stay curious and interested in the species of plant or animal that you've always wanted to protect. But also start small and start local, addressing those problems around you. But above all, at least in my opinion, be strategic about your network. As a young Nigerian woman, I've been told, oh, your place is not in the forest, you're doing a man's job. But my strategy has always been to be interested in bats and curious and excited about bats that I love so much, really. I've also built a formidable team at our NGO, Small Mammal Conservation Organization. But you see, one of my biggest successes have come from having the world's best mentors, Dr. Tiga Kingston, Dr. Oyomari Peters, and Dr. Paul Bates, amongst other wonderful mentors along the way. I have hope that this generation and the next will fight the biodiversity crisis to the last. I say that because at no time in history have we gathered this much information about, say, human behavior, and specifically using human behavior to understand conservation and drive conservation action. These days, we can now work to modify the behavior of children and adults alike for conservation. That is what gives me hope about the future.
These last few weeks, trying to get hold of our next winner, María Fernanda Puerto-Carrillo in Venezuela, has been a bit like trying to talk to someone on the moon. In fact, we've all got our fingers and toes crossed that her connection will work properly today. As you know, Venezuela has been in political and economic turmoil for an extended period. And this has led to many conservationists leaving the country. And with so much to deal with each day, the importance of protecting biodiversity has been very low on the priority list of the government. But María Fernanda's love for jaguars led her 12 years ago to the remote lagoon south of Lake Maracaibo, the largest lake in South America, where she's dedicated everything to discovering what's happening to these charismatic but extremely elusive and increasingly threatened cats. Under immense pressure from humans in an area beset with smugglers and armed guerrilla groups from neighboring countries, the greatest current threats to the Maracaibo jaguars are habitat loss and depletion of prey species, retaliatory killing by livestock farmers, and an alarming new demand for jaguar body parts in Asia. Worse still, the jaguars are now dangerously isolated, and with a decreasing population, this could potentially lead to inbreeding. As one of the last conservationists in the area, María Fernanda's work to define corridors linking jaguar populations, reduce depredation of livestock, and recruit farmers and hunters to conservation is absolutely critical. She's battled along on a shoestring budget, often hampered by operating in a near permanently flooded environment. And yet, despite this, María Fernanda has proved to be utterly dedicated and tenacious, as tough as nails, and truly one of the unsung heroes of conservation. I hope this award will allow her to continue shining brightly as a beacon of hope in Venezuela's hour of darkness.
Hello everyone, my name is María Fernanda Puerto-Carrillo. I am a conservationist working to preserve one of the most elusive species in Venezuela, the jaguar. Jaguars are my passion. Since I was a child, my parents instilled in me love and respect for animals. My mother and brother took me for long walks to many beautiful places where, of course, nature reigned. In 2007, I had the opportunity to visit the southwest of Lake Maracaibo in Zulia State. Here, the Catatumbo lightning shines over one of the most mysterious swamp forests in Venezuela, home to one of the most threatened jaguar population. I went to study the diet of that jaguar population. In that moment, I understood that this jaguar population could disappear due to their diet is restricted to species associated to those swamps. Besides, that population is partially isolated from other healthy jaguar population. I began to read more about estimating of the population size of wildlife through camera trapping technique, and I understood that it is an excellent tool to work in a difficult ecosystem such as the southern swamps in the Lake Maracaibo. When I started my trips to the southwest of Lake Maracaibo, that was not a single person that had worked before with jaguar conservation. In fact, I found fishermen, farmers, and hunters, but nobody that appreciated the jaguar very much. One day, a person told me that if I was going into one of the most unknown forests in Venezuela, I should do it with one of the most recognized hunters in that area. Maybe he could help me locate jaguars in that region. So I went to the hunter house, and immediately I told him to work with me in my project. He was surprised, he was impressed, because he could not understand how I, a woman, biologist, and conservationist, would tell a hunter to work together in a conservation project. From that moment, our rookies, of course, started a titanic task to investigate more about the threats jaguar populations are facing. In 2011, my collaborators and I lived 15 days per month in the hunter house, collecting information about these felines in an explored area. Today, this hunter is one of the most important persons in our project, and one of the many voices that promote the jaguar conservation in the southwest of the Lake Maracaibo. He taught me that conservation is a shift, changing the minds and heart of the local community people. A great challenge that requires time and perseverance, but this is not impossible. The jaguar is an animal that has historically transmitted an image of strength and power. It is seen by many indigenous communities as a protector of the forest, or even serve as a link to connect the people with the land. That magical connection has been lost outside those communities. But to preserve this important big cat, it is necessary to reactivate that connection which indigenous communities have with this feline. Changing people's vision from a negative jaguar to a jaguar that, thanks to its ecological roles, can give to humans the opportunity to survive, maintaining sustainable forests. And that is our greatest task. We must achieve coexistence, respect, and education for its conservation. I believe in my work. I believe in my project, Brava. I believe in the jaguar.
Well, thank you, Maria. It's truly amazing to be able to connect with everyone like this all over the world. Born on Valentine's Day and growing up in Gouda, the town so famous for its cheeses, Tjalle Boorsma is very much a product of the Netherlands. But during a trip to Indonesia as a child, the mysterious power of the rainforest and its creatures took claim of his heart, which, rather like Cupid, just flew off to wrap itself permanently around the soaring trees of the tropics, where he swore he would live forever. So it's still something of a surprise to him now that he's working in a savanna in Bolivia instead of a jungle somewhere else. But the vast natural grasslands of the Beni Savanna ecoregion in Bolivia are a fascinating environment of extremes, although under persistent threat from prospective soy and rice plantations, as well as unsustainable cattle ranching, which is the most important economic activity in the area. Which is why in 2015, Tjalle dropped everything to work in the Barba Azul Nature Reserve, defending the last known refuge of the critically endangered blue-throated macaws. Tjalle is clearly a young man for whom conservation is as much a part of his life as drinking water or even breathing. Now, as the Conservation Program Director of Armonia, he combines rigorous science with out-of-the-box thinking to achieve the impossible. Wading through swamps for months on horseback, he's discovered secret nesting sites that have revealed critical details of the macaws' lives. He's gained the trust of local cattle farmers and is working to show how low-impact ranching can fill important ecological gaps. And he's fought fires, raised funds, and purchased land to protect the crucial forest island refuges used by the macaws in the dry season. His holistic approach and indefatigable energy are truly a win-win for all, and we think he's hugely deserving of this award. Tjalle, welcome.
Hello everybody, I'm Tjalle Boorsma. I'm from the Netherlands, but currently working as a conservationist in Bolivia, where I protect the critically endangered and Bolivian endemic blue-throated macaw, of which only 450 individuals are left in the wild. For me, working as a conservationist didn't really come out of the blue. I have always been inspired by nature, travels with my parents to the corners of Europe where we're searching for different bird species. But also, my father was born in Indonesia. And when I was 8 years old, we traveled with the entire family to Indonesia to see the habitat and the area where my father grew up. And I remember we did these amazing jungle trips where we've seen these large dipterocarp trees with beautiful hornbills flying in between them, and also having close contact with an orangutan. Those were moments that I really can't forget and really made me inspired to do nature conservation, and especially in tropical rainforest. So in 2014 I traveled to Bolivia. There is this opportunity as working as a Barba Azul Nature Reserve coordinator out there in the Beni Savannas of northern Bolivia. 5 years later, I'm still around and have been discovering a lot about the blue-throated macaw, working as the Barba Azul Nature Reserve coordinator. We observed and discovered that the macaws were using the Barba Azul Nature Reserve out there in the flooded savannas of northern Bolivia, and literally these savannas flood for 8 months and are then followed by a 4-month extreme dry season, that these macaws congregate only there during the dry season. And just before the end of the dry season, they migrate to their unknown breeding grounds, because the macaws aren't breeding in the Barba Azul Nature Reserve. So at one point, and I remember this was at the beginning of October, just at the start of the rainy season, I saw this big group of 40 blue-throated macaws in a playful mating spectacles where they were hanging upside down, individuals chasing each other. And I was aware that I was observing something very important, because 2 weeks after I observed that amazing spectacle, the birds were all gone. And we had no idea where they were migrating to. So in order to understand and better protect the species, I organized 2 expeditions in search of their nests and the breeding habitat of the blue-throated macaw. The moment we were on a horseback and hearing the blue-throated macaws and seeing them fly away from one of these dead moriche palm snakes and discovering their nest, that was really an amazing feeling. I also became aware that the habitat the macaws were using for breeding was completely different from that from the Barbasul Nature Reserve. And that was a big discovery that we've made during these expeditions. In order to mimic the breeding habitat that we discovered, we came up with a very interesting and innovative nest box model, mimicking that like dead snack of moriche palm in open savanna, to see whether the macaws were interested in using that nesting habitat and staying year-round in the Barbasul Nature Reserve. And we already observed blue-throated macaws interested in breeding in these nest boxes. We still have to wait for the first chick fledging from the Barbasul Nature Reserve nest boxes, but I think we are very close, and these trial and error conservation actions are key to protect the species. And it was also clear to me that the macaws, when they're not in the protected Barbasul Nature Reserve, they're dispersed over cattle ranchers in the northern part of the Llanos de Mojos, the Beni savannas. And therefore it's also clear that we need to work very close with cattle ranchers. So one of the things that we have been developing, and we're developing right now, is sustainable ranching within a section of the Barbasul Nature Reserve, where we are implementing best practices ranching techniques, taking into account the protection of habitat for grassland birds, the giant anteater, the maned wolf, the puma, but also protecting the forest islands where the macaws are foraging and where the macaws are roosting. And I think showing ranchers an example like that, where you can also show that productivity is much higher than traditional ranching, that is a very important incentive for ranchers to change their behavior and to work towards a more eco-friendly production of beef in these natural grasslands. I'm still surprised that I'm now working in the tropical and natural savannas of northern Bolivia, where I always visualize myself working in the tropical rainforest. The rainforest that I've seen when I was 8 years old, when I went to Indonesia, seeing those big dipterocarp trees, and now working with cattle ranchers in natural savanna habitat. But to be honest, I love it. It is very interesting to talk with the people from that specific ecosystem and understand the extremeness of the ecosystem, and finding a method where both ranchers benefit and nature benefits.
Well, it's been such a pleasure to hear these fascinating stories from our winners. So thank you all so much. It's so exciting to be doing this, connected together all over the world. My only regret is that I can't give you the biggest hug in congratulations. Well, now there's a chance for the audience to dig a little deeper into the winners' lives with a Q&A. And it's really nice to see how many new people have joined us today. So let's all welcome Maria, Tjalle and Iroro together to the stage. Hello. Well, now we're all finally connected. Welcome, welcome. So this is really exciting to have you all together. I'm thrilled that all of our connections are working. It's an absolute miracle. I'm going to start off talking about bats, because that's been a bit of a theme throughout this year, really. Iroro, you have been working with bats for quite a long time. How has COVID affected your work and bat conservation in general?
That's a really good question, Saba. First of all, in Nigeria, a lot of people have a negative perception towards bats. So, you know, people think bats are witches and whatnot, but then throw in a pandemic and have an indirect link or a potential link to bats, it suddenly scales up the persecution and levels of concerns that we have about people destroying bat roosts and destroying bat populations. And so COVID has affected that work and that messaging for bats in that regard, but also some of the engagements and community engagements we were planning ahead of the fire season were put on hold because, you know, there was restricted movement and then more recently the protests, but we're now sort of recovering from all of that and to engage community members before the fire season. It's starting next.
I mean, it's a real sort of, it really brings this whole issue of zoonotic disease to the fore, because also you've been dealing in West Africa with Ebola, as we have also in Central Africa, in Uganda and the Congo. Now, tell me something, have people through your Zero Wildfire campaign, they've really come on board. You've managed to stop wildfires for the last 2 years. How did you manage to change people's minds and get them to want to protect bats?
Right. So across the areas where we work, people are always fascinated. First of all, it's considered, you know, that the career path of a conservationist is a Western interest, is a Western pursuit. So when people suddenly see you in the forest or in your backyard looking for bats, they're like, this is not usual. What's going on? But suddenly that interest gives you the, you know, the door, you know, opens the door. It's kind of like a portal into people's lives to start explaining to them why, you know, bats are valuable for the ecosystem and all of that. I guess if you think about the fact that being a local conservationist makes this easier for people to access the idea that bats are worth conserving, it really does drive home the point that we need to really raise local capacity. You know, that's kind of where this is all coming from. Local capacity changes people's perceptions locally, because all of a sudden it's not a white man's job to preserve bats. It's our job to preserve bats.
Which is probably something that Maria has felt herself, being a Venezuelan national working in Venezuela, but working with people who previously hunted jaguars, who come from a very different background from Maria Fernanda's. Maria, what went through your mind the first time you contacted the hunters who were killing the jaguars that you love so much? I can't hear you.
Sorry.
Can anyone hear Maria?
Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
First, I understood that change in the mind of the hunters is a very difficult task, but it is not impossible. I usually speak with them and listen to their experience hunting jaguars and other species. Afterwards, I carefully explain them about the importance of the jaguar, because many hunters hunt for fear or ignorance. And it is our task to show how beneficial wildlife is in the life of human beings. This message needs to be delivered to the people every day or every field trip. We need to be constant educating about jaguar conservation.
But also, you know, you have gone into an environment with people who live with jaguars on a daily basis. What did they teach you about jaguars? And have you noticed any kind of change in their behavior since they were involved in your research?
If there is someone who can track perfectly an elusive species like the jaguar is a hunter. I learned from them to look for footprints in the best place, to see trace, and I didn't see, to smell where the jaguars space, to identify where the jaguars eat. So I have understood that to study jaguars, you need to awaken all your sense. I have to learn all this aspect from the hunters, but also they have learned from us too. They learn about the value of the jaguar. They have learned about the damage of the overexploitation of jaguars' prey, and how their hunting can lead the jaguar to prey on livestock.
Absolutely, and that's a common problem that we have in Africa, of course, with national parks being unfenced and having a lot of livestock moving in and out of protected areas, which of course gets eaten by predators. Well, we're talking a lot about cattle today, I've noticed. Tjalle, that's your sort of main thing, that this is your main tool that you're using. In the West, we are really beginning to think of cattle as one of the main drivers of climate change. And yet you're repurposing cattle ranching to help conservation. Isn't this a bit in conflict with the idea of mitigating greenhouse gases? And, how are you going about this?
That is a very interesting point, Saba. Yes. I think before giving the answer, I think I need to clarify something. In this case, the ranching we're talking about is ranching on natural grasslands. And it's not the ranching that we see now happening in the Amazon, where large stretches of primary forest are being converted for artificial grasslands for cattle. It is actually providing beef on a very massive scale. No, in our case, we're talking about ranching on natural grasslands. And what we also know is that cows can actually fulfill an ecological role in this system. Way before humans arrived to South America, approximately 10 to 12,000 years ago, we had megafauna roaming these grasslands, kind of like what we can imagine in the savannas of Africa. And of course, with megafauna came all its biodiversity related to that. And I believe that cows can actually fulfill that ecological role. And we should also keep in mind that converting these grasslands, which is a serious threat right now, to soya plantation, again, that is for the massive ranching industry, but also plantations of rice, that really converts the habitat. And then you're losing approximately 90% of your biodiversity. But if we can implement a sustainable ranching model in these natural grasslands, we can actually maintain 90 to 95% of your biodiversity.
That's so interesting. Now, just to move on to the macaws quickly, why do you think, and you're going to have to answer this very quickly because we're running out of time, why do you think the macaws move from these forest islands that they use in the dry season to these distant nesting sites? And could you not move your penthouses into the forest islands to keep them in a more contained area?
Exactly. Now, one of the most interesting things during these expeditions was that we discovered macaws using a palm species, the Mauritia palm, which is a palm species that doesn't occur in the Barbasol Nature Reserve, as their main breeding habitat. So suddenly it dawned to me, like, okay, wow, like the macaws really need that habitat, that true palm species habitat. Motaku palm, they use that for foraging, and the Mauritia palm for nesting. And missing that Mauritia palm in the Barbasol Nature Reserve, I was thinking, we can actually mimic that. Why not plant a big eucalyptus post, put a nest box on it, and try to keep the macaws year-round in the Barbasol Nature Reserve, which is the only protected area of that northern subpopulation of the macaws, and that we can actually protect the entire life cycle of the species within the reserve.
Do you think that that these macaws, I mean, there's only 450 or so of them left. Do you think that with these penthouses that you've built and the protection of these forest refuges, that they've got a good chance of recovery?
Yes, I definitely believe that. We have been implementing a nest box program in a different subpopulation of the blue-throated macaws further south, and that has been an extreme success. We have had 90 chicks fledging from these nest boxes. So 90 in terms of only a population of 450 left in the wild is really a big conservation success. And we tried to implement that nest box model in the Barbasol Nature Reserve, but that was kind of a mistake because the habitats are completely different. We know that the macaws are extremely smart. If they kind of discover this new innovative nest box design, I believe we'll hire as well. And hopefully in the near future, I can come up with great news that we have had our first chick fledging from Barbasol. I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, we want to get the first photograph that you get of one of your little babies. It's got to be posted all over the Future for Nature social media, and we really look forward to that day. Well, thank you all so much. We've amazingly managed to beat the time zones and stream beautifully through all the bumps of cyberspace to hear your fantastic stories today. I want to say a big thank you to our wonderful audience for joining us and being part of this event on Hopin. I'd like to congratulate our winners from the Future for Nature team once again, who are so very happy that they can meet you today. And they've prepared a little special surprise for you because this is a special day. So let's see what it is.
Para nosotros, la familia Puerto-Carrillo, hoy es un día muy especial. Por verte subir un escalón tan importante como lo es este prestigioso galardón. Por llevar en alto nuestra bandera de Venezuela y llenar de orgullo y felicidad a nuestra familia con tus éxitos.
Te apoyamos en todos tus sueños. Te amamos, te adoramos, María Fernanda, por ser una persona tan especial. Deseando de todo corazón muchos triunfos en tu carrera y en tu vida. Felicitaciones.
Fernanda.
Iroro, we congratulate you for winning the Future for Nature Award in Research. We are happy and we are proud of you. God bless you.
Lieve Tjalle, van harte gefeliciteerd met het winnen van de Future for Nature Award. Ik ben super trots dat je met je passie voor de natuur je vleugels in Bolivia hebt uitgeslagen en dat je in Barba Azul hebt mogen bijdragen aan de bescherming van de blauwkeelaren. Ik weet zeker dat je vader ook super trots op je zou zijn geweest. Lieverd, heel veel succes met je andere projecten. Ik hou van je.
This one without crying, but seeing everybody being so moved by these wonderful messages from their family has made me go completely unstuck. Well, we echo your parents, your family's sentiments. We are enormously proud of you all. And when the world returns to its new normal, whenever that is, and it's safe to travel again, we'll be inviting today's winners to the Netherlands to receive their awards in person at the next event. And I hope our wonderful audience, you'll either join us there in person or digitally. Well, if there's one thing COVID has taught us, it's that we are all connected, not just as human beings, but all species together in the interdependent fabric of life. So what happens elsewhere in the world really matters. And that is why we must all link arms today to preserve and enrich our delicate and beautiful biosphere. These young heroes have shown us examples of what each of us can do as individuals. But even if we can't be out there wading through the swamps ourselves, we can be the wind beneath their wings, helping them fly further and higher with their dreams. So please join hands with Future for Nature today, become part of this wonderful movement and support its superlative efforts. Your donation will go directly to the next generation of nature conservationists and will really make a difference. Please visit the website and that nice, easy little box that says donate, that's right where you have to go. Well, in a moment, the program on this main stage will come to an end. After the final video, we invite all Hop-In attendees to join the winners in their private sessions, and you'll see the rooms pop up in a few minutes to the left of your screen. You can ask any burning questions you may still have, just congratulate them, or you can stay right here on the main stage to meet the other attendees using the personal chat function on the right. And now to close, some final words from our Future for Nature family of laureates. Goodbye.
Hi everyone at the Future for Nature Award. My name is Dr. Lucy King.
I am Elsa Laviren.
My name is Olivier Nsenyimana.
My name is Caleb Ofori-Boateng.
Farida Farhan.
Wietse van der Werf.
This is Ophir.
I'm Bronwyn Marie.
Inzakundi.
My name is Fernanda Abra. I'm from Brazil.
Here in Savo, working on a really interesting human-elephant coexistence project.
My work consists in community empowerment for the conservation of 4 of the most endangered primates of West Africa.
I won the Future for Nature Award in 2014 for my work with preventing seabird bycatch in local and international fisheries.
From the fight against wildlife crime in Africa.
My work focuses on protecting the last remaining population of the Togo slippery frog in Ghana.
In Morocco on Barbary macaques.
I started an organization called the Sea Ranger Service, which protects marine species in the North Sea.
I work to save the endangered grey crown cranes in Rwanda.
The species that I'm trying to protect are 4. The tiger, elephant, rhinos and orangutan. And the Loiser ecosystem is the last place on earth where rhino, tiger, elephants still roam together in the wild.
And I work with threatened mammal species.
Iroro, Maria, Tjalle, congratulations. Congratulations on being our winners for 2020.
I want to congratulate you all for winning this award.
I want to use this opportunity to say a big congratulations to the 2020 award winners.
I would like to congratulate you, the 2020 Future for Nature Award winner.
I want to say a huge congratulations to Maria, Tjalle and Iroro.
By winning this award, you'll find that your important conservation work is really going to get a massive boost.
And we wish you the best of luck with your work.
Welcome to our wonderful Future for Nature family.
A wonderful family where you receive friendship, solidarity, proactivity, networking, and even the source of motivation.
You will love, love, love being part of this family. It's amazing.
And this family, Future for Nature, is going to help and support you and your project for the next years. Thank you everybody that is watching us and participating on Future for Nature event of 2020. I hope to see you again in the next year with us. Bye bye. Ciao, ciao.